Hello, Graham.
Howdy.
Hi.
How's it going?
It's going great.
Yeah.
All right.
Christmas is almost here, so yeah.
Well, that makes it always great, right?
It does, yeah.
Yeah.
It's everybody's favorite time of year.
So we are the Heeltoe Corner Club, right?
Got it.
And basically, we're Marcus from Heeltoe Automotive, Graham from Minute Rice Channel, my video editor, for all the wonderful content that you see on YouTube that's under the Heeltoe banner. Graham has edited the vast majority of it at this point.
Yeah.
So we're here to bring you some content that is maybe topical, maybe technical, maybe entertaining, hopefully entertaining.
Yeah, let's hope.
I'm getting some feedback that it's at least mildly entertaining.
Well, good.
Yeah. Somebody posted on the video that I posted yesterday, in for first comment. Like, 1 of 5, bro. You got it. But
those other 4 people are going to be very impressed.
You know, to be honest, it is nice to have the positive feedback, even though it's sort of diminutive in volume.
But I think, a couple of loyal followers is better than a lot of disloyal just passers-bys,
I think so.
Yeah.
And, if you go back to our first podcast, the one that started everything with the NSX, it had all kinds of unwelcome, kind of ridiculous comments.
Of course.
That was nice for the all the activity, but I would rather have this be the wholesome thing that it is right now.
Yeah. Less of a beehive of activity from randos.
Yeah. So the last one that we posted up was a little bit of a technical chat, or I don't even really want to call it technical because I'm not trying to be super technical.
Yeah,
right?
we're not listing measurements and things like that.
I'm not like that guy with the whiteboard.
Yeah.
Which, Engineering Explained is a great one if you haven't seen it. But, I don't know. We've got a bunch of junk in the background.
We do, yes. Some pretty cool stuff.
It was a little bit of a techie thing on the blow-off valves, and we finished it, and I was thinking about it, and I thought, was it the best that we could make it? And I thought, it doesn't really matter, really. I went back and listened to it later, and I thought, I don't want to get too technical with the way that we talk about certain things.
Yeah, well, everything's very conversational. It's like, we don't script any of this, too. That's something that we should make clear to everybody, is this is just us talking.
Yeah, kind of it is. And every once in a while, we'll have a situation where I don't really know what we're going to... I'm mostly coming up with some of these topics. You're, Graham, more than welcome to come up with a topic if you haven't. But we did literally talk about that one specifically. Blow-off valves. Okay, let's make a more technical talk, right? And I just hope that I either don't come off as thinking that I know too much, but you can poke a bunch of holes in what I say, or also maybe making things more complicated than they need to be so that, the really entry-level person doesn't quite understand it. And if you are one of the people that would want to criticize me for saying something wrong or having a difference of opinion against the grain, I don't really care.
Yeah.
I'm just going to put that out there right now. I really don't care because there's a whole bunch of you guys out there, and the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing is because y'all are way too in the trenches over what's right and what's wrong, whatever.
It gets pretty hazy. And you're actually, your boots on the ground with the actual customers, with the people that are trying to make these decisions.
Right.
Yeah. In
the description or the show note for that episode, I specifically put in there that I'm not a technician.
Yeah.
I was a tech apprentice for almost a year in 1997. Right.
That was yesterday.
1998, right? I bought all the tools that I need. I still have tools in my toolbox from that very first,
nice.
At the dealership. But I feel like I got a really good immersion. And I'm one of these guys that I look at it, I learn it, I interpolate, and I move on, right? And so I honestly don't really think it's important for us to get hyper specific and technical and sciencey about anything, because really what we're trying to do, again, not a technician, not trying to diagnose your car, not trying to tell you what to buy necessarily, but just want you to know a little bit more so that you can make the informed purchase.
Yeah.
That's really what my goal is.
Educating consumers on how to make these kinds of choices for themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that is one of the things for anybody that gets into this is it's like, well, where do you start? Because, I mean, I've referenced it a million times, cameras, electronics, all kinds of things. It's the same question in every field. It's, well, what should I get? You know, what, is this good? Is this bad? What's best? And how do you even know what's good, bad, or best until you understand more about kind of what does any of this mean? What does it mean to you? What do you prefer and what do you want? You know? So really, you always have to turn the magnifying glass on yourself. Ultimately, it's not.
I think you do.
It's not about the parts so much as it is about you, because any of these things will work.
Mm-hmm.
They will function, and they will give you a solution to your problem. But whether or not that's the one you prefer, who knows?
Yeah.
Like exhausts, especially.
Yeah.
I mean, holy moly!
I got asked twice this week.
Yeah.
Which exhaust should I buy?
Oh man!
And I said, you know, I can't tell you. I said,
who knows?
This is a personal choice. There's 3 reasons why people buy exhaust systems. One is for performance. 2 is for a different look. And 3 is for a different sound. Right? Even if the one on your car is rotting and falling off, and that might be your reason to get a new one because you need a new one. Which one you buy is going to be dictated by those 3 things. Anywhere from just shitty stock replacement parts to, you know, whatever. And so I just say, hey, look at I do literally, both of these people shot it right back around to them because let's be honest, if I had one in stock, I'd let them know. But you can't really buy exhausts like that nowadays.
Immediately.
So, you know, I just say, hey, look, it depends on what you want. You know, Apex World Sport 2, Skunk 2 Mega Power, the Fujitsubo, Tanabe Medallion, or the Revel Medallion S, or whatever, they change their name. You know, these are all good exhausts. We have a 3-inch single for the TSX coming out under the Fastlane Performance name. These are all great. Jay's Racing. Oh, how long will it take to get a Toda exhaust? Bro, and I believe you're probably listening to this. How long it will take to get your Toda exhaust? Please don't ask me that question. I have no clue. In the best of times, I would have no idea. I mean,
the more niche the part becomes, the harder that kind of thing is to say.
That exhaust will come when
it's ready.
When it arrives. That's when it will come. I mean, and there's certain things that we won't know up until, you know, we won't know till we have a tracking number. Something will be on back order for 6 months, and I won't see it coming, and then the track order, it's shipped.
And I mean, even if you're proactive and you're calling these manufacturers daily, all they can do is say, well, on our schedule, we have this tentative build order for this many parts, and then we don't know which
nowadays what shows up shows up. So, you know, your decision can't be based on how long is it going to take.
No.
Right? Well, it's got to be based on the look, the sound, the exclusivity, the power of the gains that it says, or the bigger piping or whatever. But all of these things turn into a personal choice. How long it takes to get it after that and how much it costs to buy it are, believe it or not, secondary issues. If you're in the car modifying hobby and the cost of a thing isn't a secondary issue at least, then you're doing it probably not the real enthusiast way.
I was just thinking about that on the way over here. I was thinking about how many people post on forums and on subs and things, and they say, I'm trying to figure out how to build this turbo kit for my car, and I'm on a tight budget, and I have $4,000. It's like, dude, if you have a budget to do this, you shouldn't do this. Like, you really shouldn't. Like, if you're scared of the figures, you're going to be terrified of the ownership and the maintenance and all the other things that are going to come with
ironically, the more you spend up front, the less you're going to spend later on.
Sometimes,
most of the time, if you're not pushing it. But I mean, the cost has got to be.
You've got to be okay with it.
I want to boost. I'm getting actually a lot of inquiries these days about second generation TSXs. People wanting to supercharge them.
Oh, fun,
Well, CT Engineering had a blower kit for it, but
it was great.
They're not around any longer, and you know, there's no supercharger for that car. There's none. I've thought about trying to make one just so that I don't have to keep telling people no. I don't really want to make or sell superchargers, but you know, at a certain point, it becomes hard telling people no because they think, well, can I put a supercharger on? Yes, you can. Get a Merc Racing kit with the manifold adapter, but you're going to have to do everything. Oh, what's involved?
It's pretty piecemeal.
Everything. If you're asking me what's involved with putting the blower on the car, this goes to, we need to educate you. And I don't like saying I don't have the time, but I just don't have the capacity or the time resource, let's just say, to educate. Probably just need to write a blog article on it that would nip it all, right? But that involves doing a bunch of research.
It's a lot of work.
And man, there's only one of me. I guess that's part of the problem. We should probably talk about that in one of these episodes too. Like, maybe we'll talk about that just right now.
Be my guest.
Okay. Let's cover Merc Racing Superchargers.
Yeah.
Jose will probably love this.
Yeah.
Or hate it. I don't really care if he loves it or hates it, but here's the reality.
Just as an aside, it's been forever since I've seen what he stocks and makes. But I remember when I first came across him and started communicating with him, it was about my Civic, and it was about his water aftercooler kits.
Right.
And he was starting to do some kind of crazier stuff with M82s on them and bigger superchargers on RSXs mostly. But I don't really know where he's at now.
Yeah, so he's kind of evolved past that. He's got into using different blower manufacturers.
Okay.
When CT was still in business, they were also having supply issues. I mean, you can't talk about Merc Racing without talking about ridiculously long wait time for your kit. Maybe sometimes it's longer than others, right? But it depends on, number one, above all, blower supply.
Yeah.
Right? So CT Engineering and Merc were both getting blowers from Magnuson. And Magnuson was just not able to fill the orders. The blowers that they make, they go on all kinds of different applications.
Tons, yeah.
And these are precision built things, lots of metal involved. I don't imagine that they're easy to make. They're obviously not inexpensive.
Yeah, well, especially when you look at the way the screws fit with one another, the tolerance is perfect.
Yeah, they're.
It's I'm sitting there going, how the hell did they get these things together? It's wild. It's almost like they just milled it out of a solid chunk in 2 screws. It's totally wild.
It's amazing how old blower technology actually is.
It is,
too,
it's ancient.
These things have gone back more than 100 years.
Yeah.
And
but that kind of precision has been around for that long.
Well, they just make a good supercharger, but aren't able to spit them out at a rate that satisfies what Merc or CT or probably most of their customer base is demanding. You know, and I heard some woes about it from Nate at CT Engineering before they had closed, and I just thought, this is an unenviable position that you're in. And I knew right then and there that I never wanted to get involved with this stuff. And fast forward, when they were selling the CT intellectual property, they
because you bought a portion of it.
I did. I was on the short list of one person they contacted to take over the icebox production.
Nice.
And we got the intellectual property for the short shifters as well, because we sell a bunch of those also.
Those are great. Yeah, just the little
adapter
machine,
thing,
stainless steel guy. Yeah.
So the blowers weren't even part of the conversation. They didn't. I didn't want it.
Yeah.
It wasn't even available.
A lot of extra work.
Yeah. The molds for the castings for the manifolds had gone other places, and I just wasn't into it. And and part of the reason why I knew I didn't want to is because I didn't want to deal with blower supply. Yeah. And these are big dollar amounts we're talking about too. 20 blowers is a big chunk of change.
They're $3-4 grand a piece usually.
Yeah, I mean.
Something like that.
Yeah, you can market me the way that this market is too. Trying to mark stuff up is really hard. So, and then talking a lot with Jose Mercado from Merc Racing. He's got the same struggles. He actually, he's a very passionate person.
He is, yeah.
And he's confided in me a lot on at different times. He really has a lot financially and mentally and emotionally invested in his product line.
Yeah.
And he really wants to do a good job, but I think that he ends up finding himself working really hard or maybe harder than he wants to, or maybe even harder than he should be.
Yeah.
And he gets put through the ringer a little bit. And so I've talked to him a number of times about this, and one time he was surprised to hear from me. I'm like, look, dude, I understand you're having blower surprise. CT does too, and it was news to him. He had no idea. He thought that he was having to compete with these other people that were able to sling these things around no problem. I'm like, no, dude, They're the same as you.
It's the whole thing.
It's the same fucking story, and it's over the same product, right? And so where he kind of evolved out of that was, well, first of all, CT Engineering went away, which was actually a little bit of a boon for him because he became the only supplier for these types of blowers. But he changed to a different manufacturer.
Okay.
Yeah, so... and I think now he's even gone to a different one now.
Well, I remember for a while he was experimenting around with, totally different blower types.
These TVS blowers.
Yeah, TVS, and then there was, what the hell are they called? Lysomes. Lysome Design is what they're called.
Yeah, I think he's bounced around a little bit, and now he's getting also from a company called Harrup.
Okay.
I've never heard of any of these.
I've heard of him in the context of muscle cars.
Right, so, he's been getting those, and I guess the supply has been better.
Good.
Right? This doesn't really change how the supply of the cast products are. Now, about cast stuff.
Like manifolds and whatnot.
Yeah, so I found out from actually doing the ice boxes, which are rotational molded. Some kind of molding, casting, whatever. Like, you're going to get 75... raw,
pieces,
lumps. It's called a lump, right? And then they need to be machined and cut and whatever. I mean, and I'm talking about the blower manifolds and the plastic for the ice boxes right now. Like, they both need all this work, and you sometimes don't find out until you get halfway through the work if your product is actually good.
Oh, God. You mean like if it has defects that make it unsellable or something
exactly.
like that? Yeah.
Right. Now, it's probably a lot more of a sin if it's like cast aluminum manifolds than if it is the plastic boxes.
Sure.
The plastic isn't horrifically expensive. But after you've invested 20 minutes of work into it, you don't really want that. And we're taking out of the fact that I might screw up modifying them.
Yeah.
But, he's not just contending with the blower supply. He's also contending with, the quality of the castings that come. And CT had sometimes issues with that too, just on the inside. These things never made it out, right?
Yeah.
They have a good name. They have a good quality product because they had to scrap a bunch of shit.
Yeah. Because they did the QC and threw it out.
Well, they just, they had a high standard, and Jose does as well. So it just sort of like, you don't really realize that the reason why maybe you have to wait 60, 90, 120 days when you were originally told 6 weeks may be truly...
Sorry, I'm just making sure our recording's still going.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, just want to make sure. Hold on, guys. Sorry. Camera.
Recording with the remote recording
it
from
is,
the phone.
It is still working. That's why I keep checking my watch, too. It's because I'm looking at the screen. Because I have an iPhone now, remember, everybody? I said that last episode because you were like, man, my freaking website with iPhones.
Yeah, I know.
But
you're still working on that.
Yeah, but you were saying the castings are a risk.
So, the castings are kind of a risk. So, like, the exact point being, if you've had to wait 6 months and you were originally told 6 weeks, well, part of this is why. Yeah. Because, maybe, everything was supposed to arrive around the 4 to 5 week point, and then it was just going to be down to some machining and some assembly and then whatever. But, that can go to hell.
Yeah.
Real quick. Well, and, you might find out at that 5 week mark that, oops, these castings are garbage. I need them redone. And then now the production schedule won't handle 4 week turnaround. Now it's 8 week turnaround. And, that by the time you end up with those could put your machinist in this weird thing. And in the meantime, since you had to wait 2 more months, maybe you had to put your blower order on hold because you can't have 30 grand out or whatever the hell.
Yeah, the whole supply chain goes gunk, 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 and it gets all
the whole
mangled.
thing gets all dorked up. And, I'm not saying that's what happens all the time, but I'm sure that happens sometimes.
Yeah.
And I've got 2 guys right now that have prepaid for blower kits, and I keep giving them these. And then,
estimates,
and then the soft end of it is, Jose is one guy. There's one guy doing a website, one guy answering emails, taking payments, building kits, designing new things. He still manages to design new things all the time.
Yeah.
And, new suppliers. And he's got a full-time job, too.
And he's a family as well.
He's got a full-time job that requires travel periodically and a family.
And he goes out and races, too.
So now here we are where it's like potentially these blower kits could ship pretty soon, but... you know, he's tweaked, he's burned out. Holidays here. I'm going on vacation with my family, and it'll be done when I get back.
Yeah.
And you know, that's just, you have to kind of respect some of that too.
Yeah. Well, so my turbo I ordered for the Fiesta. It's an S280 from a smaller company called Turbo Technics out of Britain. And they had the castings for the housings made. They had the turbine wheel made. They just didn't have the inlet wheels made. They hadn't got them from the foundry yet, and so they just had to wait. They had to wait for the block of stainless steel or whatever it was, titanium, and then they have to mill it, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like...
There's a schedule for that.
Yeah.
And then after they're done, did they pass quality? Everything has to pass quality.
Exactly. And really, on these kinds of parts, guys, you don't want a rush job. You don't want a Friday job on a fucking turbo, and you don't want a Friday job on a supercharger.
No, like, it's got to be done right.
Yeah.
And
these things cost good money, and they make great results if you put them in correctly. But
the part that kind of sucks about it is that the customers have to come out of pocket up front.
I know.
You know, and then the customers have to come out of pocket up front. There's no way to do an authorization and then capture it later when the thing ships, which is, you know, normally how things would work.
Yeah.
Is that, you know, they take your authorization for the
pre-order it. Yeah.
Well, yeah, you're actually pre-ordering it. You know, you're putting your name on it. The money has to go to the vendor so they can start buying product and building your kit.
Yeah.
Right? And when those lead times cascade, you know, people start getting really nervous about their money.
Yeah.
And are they going to get their product and I don't even want it anymore and all this. It's like, look, don't buy it if you're not committed to it. You really have to be committed. Maybe some of us should be committed in a different sense for, you know, enduring some of this stuff. But the reality is, you know, buying a blower kit for your, and we'll just call it a specifically second generation TSX, that's hurdle one. Yeah, that's hurdle one.
And I think, you know, once again, like, it reminds me of what I said earlier about your budget, where it's like, if you needed this money, you shouldn't have put it on a supercharger or a turbo kit, you know? Like,
you know, we're only really, I think, pointing a finger at the folks that were committed and then became uncommitted at a certain point because it took too long.
Yeah, well,
I gotta say, totally, I get that.
I get the impatience, but I know that for
some... No, I don't think that's fair. I don't think that that's impatient at all. I think that it's when you were told that this $5,000 thing that you were going to buy was supposed to be ready in 6 to 8 weeks, and that's already a good chunk of time, right? To be laying out that kind of cash with no guarantee that something is going to ship, other than you just trust the person, and you know, you should trust, you know, them and me.
Established brands.
Yeah, Heeltoe. That's why you buy it from Heeltoe or other somebody says to buy it instead of, you know, some shady thing. So I get it. After 8 weeks, and you get told, man, it's going to be another 3 or 4 weeks because of this. Okay, tweaked. I'm still fine. 3-4 weeks goes by, and you go, hey, what about now? And then you get the 3 times in a row of 1 to 2 weeks, right? So now you're encroaching on the like 5-month mark, 6-month mark, and you've already paid for it. You're approaching the point at which you can no longer call your credit card company if you wanted to.
Anything,
And you know, at a certain point, the patience runs out, and this is not a renewable resource. The only way that we're able to work through these things, Heeltoe is able to work through these things, is through communication.
Yeah.
So we communicate, you know. We're about to give proactive updates to these folks. They're not looking for an update right now. We're going to give them an update just because we heard a thing. So without the communication, that's where things sort of fall apart.
Yeah, that's where things get very shady.
Right.
Where if you don't have a long-standing relationship with a brand, you sit there and sweat bullets and go, oh, shit.
Yeah.
Did I just get hoodwinked?
I'm a totally open book.
Yeah.
I'm the one on the phone. I'm the one in the email. I'm the one on the Facebook. I'm the one on the YouTube. This guy right here is the one that will call you proactively, you know, or my wife now. And so you don't get that with a lot of places.
Yeah.
Like you can't look at the eyes, even some other channels, you know, like, you know, whatever it is, Fitment Industries or whatever.
There's no shortage.
The dudes that are on the video are not necessarily the same dudes that are going to give you an update on your order.
They're hired talent most of the time.
And you know what? More power to them. They got a great channel. They got a great, and they're selling a product. All that great, but we do it differently, right? So understand that all of that, cumulative time and energy that goes into it. We're not getting a great markup on these things either. At the $5,000, I promise you, we're not making a whole lot of money. After all of this back and forth that we do with folks, especially.
Yeah.
But we're able to maintain that. But in the meantime, let's just say you decide to take the plunge and buy the blower kit. And I'll be honest with you, hey, you know what? He says 6 to 8 weeks. It's very probably going to take longer than that. Sometimes they're optimistic. Sometimes they're not. How long can it take? The smart customer will say, well, how long could this take? I'm like, I've had it take 5-6 months.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've had it take a good long while, and then you can't predict a thing like, the shipping stuff, right?
Yeah.
And we know a lot of this is fallout from COVID, but it's not the first time where the ports in LA have had trouble.
Yeah.
It's happened a few times, and for just a strike or whatever, right? So you can never really know when your thing's going to come, but you just have to be prepared to wait. And then while you're waiting, start doing the research, and getting some of the other product, your fuel pump, your injectors. If you ask me right up front what's everything I need to buy, it's going to be like a gigantic shopping list.
It's pretty big, yeah.
Yeah, and then, it'd probably take 3-4 months to fulfill it anyway, even if the blower came on time.
And then it takes, with people's schedules, it can take weeks to install it all too.
Right. So putting a blower on a second-gen TSX, there's a lot of moving pieces, and this is any case series, to be honest, but I think the second-gen TSX is a special case because it's so similar to what would be a 9th-gen Civic, but not the same.
Yeah.
And you might find support for a 9th-gen Civic product, but it won't be there for a 2nd-gen TSX.
Yeah.
And so that means answering that question of how do I put a blower on my 2nd-gen TSX? And we go, well, first you're going to get this Merc Racing kit. Okay, what all's included in the kit? Well, it's a manifold, a blower, and I think a belt or something.
Yeah, belt,
but
pulley.
it's a pulley.
Yeah.
Well, what else am I going to need? Well, the second thing you're going to need is a fabricator.
Yeah.
Because a fabricator is going to be the one who actually is going to build everything else, as far as charge piping goes. Whether you get an air-to-air one or a liquid-to-air aftercooler, it's going to have some plumbing and brackets made and whatever. Because, again, you're not going to go out and just buy, you could maybe for a Civic get a bolt-on aftercooler, and you still have to build some piping, but whatever. It's not a cut and dry thing.
Yeah.
I feel bad for some of these 2nd-gen TSX guys because they literally just want to put a supercharger. Hey, what supercharger kits do you offer? And, and then how long will it take to come? It's well, I don't offer any kits at all.
Yeah.
And I can't answer number 2 at all.
Yeah, and even if you look at other types of superchargers, the Rotrex, Craftworks stuff, there's a ton of custom fab,
Yeah.
And then there's also sacrifices where it's you could do it much more easily if you just remove your air conditioner.
Yeah.
But do you want to do that?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Because I remember
that's also so. There's another brand. No, not to cut you off.
No, okay.
But for the J series. There's a guy, Andy Gerzina, in Ohio, and he makes a bracket to put a Rotrex blower on a J series engine. Awesome. It goes exactly where the AC compressor goes.
Yeah.
So, with a mildly built engine and good tuning, 700 horsepower, no problem.
Yeah,
right.
With a big Rotrex.
And people are buying these things. He's doing pretty reasonably well, I think, selling the bracket. The bracket is the real product that he sells. Yeah. The blowers he resells. But the bracket's kind of a neat thing. But again, lose my air conditioning.
Yep.
And that's a turnoff for some people. Oh, well, some folks have gone and gotten electric AC compressors and then custom lines.
But there's your new can of worms,
Yeah, exactly. So so now you got to, what is this, like a $2,500 expansion pack? I don't know how much it costs. But do you know somebody who can build the lines?
Yeah.
It can be done. People have done it.
Yeah.
Resourceful people who have some contacts or spend the time researching and spend the time. but there's no
click. Turnkey solutions.
Yeah, I mean, even his blower kit, he has one for a TL, but it took him a long time to assemble this.
Yeah.
He was just doing like a DIY kit. He still sells the DIY kit for people with other cars, but the TL was so popular he made one for it.
Specific. Yeah.
Later on, for the 4th gen, it helps that he actually has one each of these cars. But it's just, I want to put one of these blower kits on my car. Like, wow. Okay, well, if you knew what you were getting into, sometimes you'd ask the question. Now, I have had folks buy these things knowing full well of at least the depth of the pool that they're diving into.
Well, good.
Right? And so this is great, right? Yes, I know it's going to be a while. I've heard the horror stories. We'll communicate. We're not going anywhere. We've been online a long time. We answer the phone or we call back voicemails, all of that stuff. Right? It gives people a lot of peace of mind. So, it might take forever, but we're not going to disappear with your money. I guarantee it.
It's going to happen.
So
sooner or later, you'll get it.
Absolutely. I've never had one not ship.
Yeah.
It
just takes
people
a while.
that wait. I've never had one not go. So same thing with the Guernsey Bear thing. And actually, Andy's really specific about if I'm going to order a supercharger from him for a customer, he's got this like standard line of questions that he wants passed through. He was hesitant to even have me do anything with these things because, he likes to have this hands-on approach to make sure that people don't end up getting something that doesn't fit, doesn't work, or is, something that they were not expecting.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that fully. And so, he's given me the opportunity to list these things and represent the brand on our website, and at least, engage with them, answer these questions, and sell the product. And it's nice because it gets people coming into the store and checking it out and asking questions. It's just sometimes it's hard to answer some of these questions because of what we already talked about.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of variables to it, and then even within that, there's your personal tastes. Where it's like some people would be like, oh yeah, I don't give a shit about the air conditioner, take it off.
Yeah, a lot of people.
Yeah. Whereas
I never use it. I'm like, you don't?
Whereas other people...
I never not use mine.
Yeah, other people would be like, no, absolutely not. This is a luxury car, and I bought it as a luxury car, and I'm not going to take the air conditioner out of it. Like, what could be more miserable than leather seats in the summer with no AC? But then,
It's like my CRX.
Yeah.
One of the stipulations was, I want air conditioning.
Yeah.
And it's been a mental challenge, not reneging on that because I know in my mind that I want the air conditioning, but I also know that it will be easier if I can let that part of it go, and it wouldn't be the first time that I didn't have air conditioning. And in honesty, like, we live in Oregon, you don't really need to use it all the time anyway.
You could get away with it.
There's a really big chunk of time where you won't need it.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. Like
and then an even bigger chunk of time where you won't even be driving the car. So, how important is this really?
Yeah.
But I'm like, no, this car's always had air conditioning. I'm blessed to have all the air conditioning components.
Yeah.
They all work.
Let's make it happen, yeah.
I'm not putting, and especially now since I've already done all the fabrication around air conditioning being there, this wild downpipe, just so that it would clear it would be dumb not to follow through and put the air conditioning on. So, air conditioning is something that, it's really easy to take out, but really hard to put back.
Yeah.
And, but some people, they're just like, no, I don't need it.
Yeah, well, and once again, down to their purposes. Some people are building drag cars and race cars, and they're like, dude, I don't give a shit. I'm
really only care about going fast.
Yeah, I'm going to be
Turn it off.
I'm going to be in a flameproof suit. I wouldn't even feel the air conditioning.
So what you're saying is, I can lose some weight out of my car. Well, so like adding a supercharger adds weight.
Yeah. Well,
but I can take some weight away also.
It just trades it.
Pull out the condenser so I get better airflow.
For that big intercooler.
Yeah.
No, I looked at C38s for my Civic for a while because I really wanted big power on that. But, you had to lose the AC to put in a big Rotrex. You had to. Otherwise, you were stuck with I think it was like a C30 or whatever is what I ended up with.
Yeah.
Which, potent, but they had some of the other Rotrex superchargers that could do 600-700 horsepower if you had the build for it.
Yeah. I don't know. The air conditioning is a thing, though. I think, it can't have just to do with I'm over 40.
Yeah.
But, I think the other thing is I want to be able to cruise around in it, with my wife and stuff.
Yeah.
And she won't be happy if it doesn't have air conditioning. She won't be unhappy cruising around on the right days. But I just don't want it to be, invariably, even the S2000, right? You take it out, top down, cruise around, blah, blah, blah. 45 minutes in,
you're like,
hey, this is hot, noisy,
hell, yeah.
put the roof up.
Yeah.
Just because you set out, with it one way and it's cool, on the way back, you don't want to have those amenities like a roof and air conditioning. They're nice. Right?
Yeah. Those little things are cherries on top of your driving experience.
Maybe I'm worse about it.
I don't think so.
I think a lot of people agree.
Because when you look at the type of car that you're building with that CRX, it's a track-capable street car, and it's like almost a show build, where it's supposed to be pretty, it's supposed to be very pristine, it's supposed to be a good example of kind of what you can do on the platform. And I think with all those things in mind, gutting it and just making it a race car wouldn't really tick any of those boxes.
I don't think you're really doing a car justice by doing that every single time.
No.
It seems like a lot of the builds these days, that's exactly what they are, too.
Well, you know what? I think it's because it's just so damn easy,
Thank you for saying that.
Yeah.
I know that it is not easy. It's easy ripping the interior out.
Yeah.
But it's not necessarily easy getting it looking great because, people will go in and fill a bunch of the holes and then they'll smooth things out and paint it and then put paneling on the inside. A lot of people don't do that.
No.
Just tear it apart.
Well, because I was probably over a decade ago now, as I'm thinking about it, but battle cars kind of became a thing.
Battle cars,
yeah.
What's
where
that?
It's like if you had a Miata that was just trashed and you just knew it and you just accepted it.
Oh yeah, this is a Northwest thing.
I
noticed this a lot up here.
SoCal, Northwest is big. Yeah.
I don't know that I noticed that type of thing so much in SoCal. I mean, there was certainly a subset, which... There certainly was a subset. But
East Coast, they have a lot of battle cars.
Do they?
Too. Yeah.
When I came up here, I noticed a lot of that kind of
But yeah, where it's
stuff.
You ripped your bumper off, so you just zip tied it back on, and very obviously, you picked neon zip ties and then drilled a bunch of holes and just put the stitching on the side of the car, and when you get a giant dent, you put a vinyl decal of a Band-Aid on it. Shit like that, where it's just kind of fuck it, and you make a race car and you just leave the harnesses just unbound and just bullet connectors and individual wires just hanging all over the inside,
That sounds horrible.
I know, but they build these crazy, 500 horsepower 240 SX, and they're like, this thing's an awesome car, man. Check it out. Just, it's got this giant fucking e-brake on it with a crystal ball on the top.
I don't know. Not my style.
Of course. But it became a style. And as a result, I think it changed people's expectations of what a show car should be. Because suddenly people were like, it's kind of cool, it's like a rat rod. It's like, why not? You know? Why not lower the bar a bit on that?
Yeah. There's room for all kinds.
It's not your style. I totally get that.
Well,
it's not
here's
really
the thing.
Mine either.
It's also not my style to do the donk thing either.
Yeah.
But and it's a spectacle. I guess in a way it's the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
On one hand, you've got, but one of them involves trying to do things really nicely.
Yeah.
There's no way to make an ugly car. I don't know. There's I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it's just I don't really give a crap about this car. It wasn't that good of a car to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
Then use it, right? But it's purposefully making it worse. It just seems. Seems like. I think it's a bit of a stretch.
It's goofy, but I feel like stance culture, because I've spent a bunch of time orbiting it, and I've done a lot of thought about it.
Yeah, the videography stuff.
Yeah, in fact, let me see. I've got my
It all started in Seattle.
My Stance Wars shirt on.
Yeah.
But yeah, the stance culture is about that kind of gotcha, made you look, and some of it is very VIP and it's quite pristine. Some of the interiors are really beautiful, but there's a pretty good portion of it is just to get people to go, what the fuck? And just see you and shoot a photo and talk about you and etc. And that's what I think is so funny is that I see people hate on stance culture all the time, But you know what they do? They shoot a photo and they share it on the internet.
Yeah, I think
that's exactly what these guys want.
The stance thing, I feel like, is a different category of thing as opposed to the what you call battle car, which I'd never heard it called.
I've seen overlaps. I have.
Yeah, I believe it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so there are one of the cool things about like the rat rod thing is that they were made to function.
Yes.
But not to look good.
Yeah, totally.
And a lot of it was let's build a performance car around it. This otherwise what would be kind of a junky car.
Yes.
And so that's great. But I think that you can step over with any one of these, with anything, you can definitely step over a line, right?
Yeah.
If you're building a performance car that you're going to drive on the street, you could step way over that line and make a totally miserable, undrivable piece of shit that only really, it would be amazing on the track, right? Or at the drag strip or at the track. It's phenomenal. But then when you try to drive it on the street, it's miserable,
it's
right? It is like miserable.
I did that with a racing
clutch. And removing the air conditioning is a gateway drug too.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah, putting a gnarly clutch in is another thing. It's like
or master cylinder.
Yeah, or like I'm going to take away my power. Why? Well, for cleaner engine, a better feel on my brake. It's like you're driving to work. Like how fat do your calves need to be thighs need to, if you're braking and it involves quads and calves, you're doing it too difficult. Like
I hope you have an amazing drive to work, because if you're just slogging it on a freeway, what the are you doing?
I mean, like,
it better be Laguna Seca to work, because
we're gonna circle back and touch on this again. But there, you could go too far with the stance thing.
Yeah,
you can make the car undrivable.
Yes,
and okay, sir, you slam the car, you're gonna have some trouble on some driveways. We all been there.
Yeah,
that's okay. Air, better, right? If you go,
pretty elegant solution.
Definitely go with air. Yeah. It's much more commonplace now than it's been ever. And I don't have money. It's like, well, okay, well. Then we get back to the other conversation of, if you don't have money, you're just going to fuck up a car.
Yes.
Fine.
Yeah, and you're going to be sad that you fucked it up, too.
You can go too far with VIP. Yeah. With all of the bullshit on the inside. Oh, yeah, right? Dude, like, a really nice lounge atmosphere doesn't have trinkets galore. Yeah. Like, it doesn't have to have
every little diamond encrusted
when you
everything.
Go to bedazzling the whole inside, that you went too far.
It shouldn't look like a Claire's.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So any one of these like sort of genres of modding, you could definitely go too far.
Oh,
I mean, like with a rat rod, or what could be, a new wave battle car is, all right, a rough, ugly car that's generally straight, but we've tuned it up. We've done some fab. We've made this thing perform like holy shit.
Yeah, it goes like hell.
We just didn't give any consideration to how it looks because we really don't care how it looks. We care about how it performs. That shouldn't involve investment in dingle bobbers off of the rear tow hook. That shouldn't involve, the ridiculous shift knob. If the shift knob is a bolt, or something like, or some like crazy, gigantic lug nut from a semi truck or something, that maybe makes sense. But it's not. They're going out of their way to do something goofy. And so that's maybe where the stance battle cars intersect.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
And then this just doesn't really seem to work.
Well, you see it in drift culture a lot, actually.
Drift is a whole different thing. See, drift is all about style and pushing boundaries.
But it's all over, because when I see Northwest drift cars, a lot of them stray towards stance and battle cars. It's a strange. There's like essentially it's like a 8-circle Venn diagram or something of car culture around here, and then there's these weird overlaps sometimes of 2 or 3, or just 2, or 2 here but not 2 there. And it's like, you can find people doing all kinds of weird stuff around here with old cars.
You know what? The Northwest is extremely eclectic.
It is. It's actually got a huge car culture, considering how miserable it is to drive here a lot of the time.
Yeah, interestingly, from being from SoCal, and, I've talked to people all over the country.
Yeah.
Racers, culture people, whatever. I haven't done that many traveling to other car events, but I've spoken with enough folks from the Northeast and the South and all this to know that Southern California considers itself to be the epicenter of everything. And that's in a lot of ways true. However, it seems like when, this a bunch of years ago when the SoCal traveling circus was getting its way around, going to other places, they're always so surprised to see really cool shit in other places of the country.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, we're all over, it's all over the place. Like, it's not that most of the cool cars are in Southern California. It's just that there's a shitload of people in Southern California, and a small percentage of people have a really dope car. And there's a small percentage of people up here that have a really dope car, but it's a lot less overall people.
Yeah.
And the same thing out of, the South, or if you're in the Midwest, right? The car culture has, I think, a very similar gradient of people doing different things. But up here, it's really... it's really, really eclectic. More than I think that I could say that I've seen other places.
Yeah.
It's always rare to see a really clean, like JDM looking car or, whatever. That's always rare. But up here, it's like if you go to a show, it's no holds barred. It could be anything.
Yeah. It's all kinds. It is. There's a lot of cross sections here, and I can't help but think that maybe some of it has to do with the weather, really. Just because, like, in Southern California, there's a lot of motivation, to like, oh, well, why not have a clean car? Because we can have clean cars here.
I think that there's a big status component to the Southern California part of it, too.
No doubt. You look at how many supercars there are down there.
Yeah. Well, I think, people are trying to have a caliber, and I think it takes a lot of the fun out of it.
Yeah. Well, the Northwest is definitely experimental. There's a lot of things around here that you're like, what the I've never seen that before.
Well, and there's plenty of cars, to your point, too, that, haven't had the, the ideal life of, dry weather all the time.
Warm weather, good driving
I'm not even talking about rust. Cars don't really get rusty here.
Thankfully, on the West Coast, we're pretty damn lucky.
It's pretty amazing, guys. If if your used car market is drying up near you, look in the Northwest. Yeah. There's a lot of metal up here that's in good shape. It might have some green shit growing on it. But, that you can wash off.
You might have some mushrooms in the floorboards.
Yeah, there could be some mushrooms growing off of the car somewhere. Yeah. That's not a joke.
No, it's not really. It does get pretty humid, and it gets very wet.
Yeah, and it does not dry. That's the thing. It gets wet.
And it can stay like that for weeks, Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. But... we don't salt our roads. So as a result, it's like, because I've had, like, my F-150, it's only a 2017. It got brought over from Michigan. It's already got rust all fucking over it, and it's only been out that way a couple years.
I had my TSX. I was driving up to British Columbia for a job, and I got stuck in the snow one time up in British Columbia.
And you got rust afterwards?
And I had already pulled out my whole transmission. I cleaned my engine. I cleaned the trans. I cleaned the whole underneath. My car, my engine was beautiful. I got stuck in the snow. That's literally stuck, but it snowed, and I was driving back through Washington, through British Columbia, through Washington, and I got back, and a week later, I got all this white shit growing all over my engine. And it's like, God.
And it's very hard to get rid of.
It took like that one trip.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize it, otherwise I would have rinsed it off. But,
right, yeah.
But I didn't realize it till I got under the car again, and it was like, man, all this stuff is corroded. It takes like no time.
Yep.
But, at least here, we really don't have any corrosion. So
no, very, very, very little.
So, okay, well, here we've talked a bit about
I think
the superchargers.
Let me check the camera again.
Yeah, we should be still...
I feel like we've been talking for a minute.
Why would it turn off?
We're at about 50 minutes. Well, I haven't used it before.
Oh, okay.
I'll have much more faith in it the second time.
All right, cool.
Don't worry.
Well, 50
First
minutes.
time, I just don't want to fuck it up and have it say all these great things and then just be like, oh, it wasn't recording.
So we've covered building custom supercharger kits and, what to be prepared for mentally before you even ask how much it's going to cost.
Yeah.
Just don't. And then some car culture. Ending on, we got a new person starting.
Oh, good.
Tomorrow.
Great.
Yeah. Speaking of cars that were brought way past the brink of being able to be driven on the street.
Yeah.
I drove this guy's car way back in it had to be right around 2000, 2001, right? Right when we were starting Heeltoe. I think I may have started Heeltoe. EF Civic, completely gutted. And I mean, just the top half of the dashboard.
Yeah, just on the rail.
No heater.
Yeah.
No nothing. It was stripped beyond, right? Little black 88, 89 SI with a B16A engine in it that was built by a friend of ours named Cy. Cy, at the time, was with a couple of other friends of ours who were trying to start up a shop, and they kind of sort of started this shop called Cyism. And yeah, I did have Heeltoe at the time because I subleased a front corner of their shop to put some display cases in there. Okay. You know, it was back when I really did need to verify that I was a legit business, and doing that I had to have some pictures of my shop.
Cool.
So my sticker was on the front door. My two display cases were right inside the front door.
Nice.
And all the rest of the shop had nothing to do with me. But it made for really great pictures for opening up accounts with, whoever. So I think I actually opened my Tane account that way.
Nice.
And that was a while ago. So
yeah.
Sai Nakashima actually used to work for June USA.
Oh, yeah.
June USA ended up shutting doors, but Sai was still around. So they hooked up with Tim, this guy I'm talking about, and another guy that we knew, Scott, and they started the Cyism shop. And Sai was supposed to be, the head technician who would do all this stuff, but I don't know. I don't really know what happened because I wasn't really involved with the shop.
Sure.
All I know is that he did a lot of time porting out cylinder heads for people.
So he had this B16.
So Sai, yes, exactly. Yeah. So Sai built a B16 for Tim.
Like a turbo?
NA.
Oh, okay.
1.6, and they dynoed this thing. It was like 198 or 200 horsepower.
Yeah.
Out of a 1.6.
Yeah.
And it wasn't not B16B, B16A, right? So with whole June top end, high compression, he was at, with the zero weight oil way before that became a thing. And we were all like, what? Zero weight? That's like water. Like, yeah, no, this is what you're going to run. It's going to make the power, right? Fully built this thing, and it screamed 10,000 RPM. This thing ripped out to 10,000 RPM.
Man.
Noisy as fuck.
I'll bet.
And loud, again, all metal, nothing. You could feel the heat coming all off of the firewall.
Yeah.
Another friend of mine, Drew, and I borrowed it one day, and we went to the beach, and something was wrong with one of my cars, so Tim let me borrow his car, and we went cruising around in this thing, and it was obnoxious.
I'll bet.
But ripping it,
fun, right?
third, fourth gear, 10,000 RPM on the freeway in the summer. It was just gorgeous. Anyway, Tim actually came up with the name Heeltoe.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I needed a name for my company, and I was not creative enough to come up with one myself. And he had a couple of good ideas, and one of them I really responded to, which was Heeltoe.
Cool.
Tim relocated to the Northwest a few months ago and was looking for some work, and we needed a person, so he's starting here tomorrow.
Awesome. Cool.
So Tim has actually went to high school with my wife.
Oh.
And so she's known him longer than I've.
Well, you're all kinds of interconnected then.
Oh, yeah.
That's cool.
Well, she introduced me to him.
Nice.
And we did, engine swaps in my parents' driveway. It was like.
That's way back. Yeah.
It's way back. Yeah. This was, I think that swap happened in 99.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool, man.
So I've known this guy for a really long time.
Good.
And, I'm excited to have somebody new here to work on some things because, we've had some staffing, exodus. We'll just call it an exodus.
Yeah.
We had 3 people working here, and they've all left in the same, 3 months. And just, on to different things.
Yeah.
And Elisa and I were like, screw this, we'll just do it because that's who we are. We can do it all, right? But as it turns out, we can't really do it all. So he's gonna help us out, and I just wanted to share that little tidbit. I don't know if Tim will ever be part of anything that we do here, but maybe one day he will. I don't know.
Yeah. Just have to see if he wants to.
Yeah. Well, cool. All right, everybody. All right. It was a little bit of a longer show today.
It was.
hopefully it was entertaining. It was a little bit free form.
Yeah.
Literally, actually thought that we were talking. I thought that we were going to talk about something else.
Oh, well,
but
just keep that in your back pocket.
Yeah, we'll just keep it back there.
Yeah.
And hopefully this is a good listen for you.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in, guys.
Also, if you have any show ideas, don't forget to leave them below. Because you know what?
Yeah.
I really liked when somebody said, talk about suspension. And then we could talk about suspension.
Yeah.
Or talk about your origin story. And we did a little bit of that. So feel free to leave a comment. Let us know what else you'd like to hear.
Yeah.
All right. Now we're leaving. Bye.
Okay. Bye.